All right, cool. So we got Ramsey in the house, and Ramsey's you're literally one of my favorite entrepreneurs of all time, dude. Because I followed you for years, forever, dude. And I was like, one day I'm probably gonna end up working with you somehow. But you do a ton of stuff. So Comic-Con,
yeah.
Now you're gonna have a podcast.
Yeah.
You're a musician.
Yeah.
You have a comic book.
Check.
What don't you do, man?
I think you only live so long.
Yeah.
And you just and as far as I'm concerned, I want to try to do as much as I can the whole time. And I think my parents told me, hey, you can do anything as a kid, and I took it seriously. So I'm trying to do everything.
So let's start with Comic-Con, because I think this is one of the most interesting things that is here in the Rio Grande Valley. Super popular. It's probably one of the most popular conventions that happens here in the Rio Grande Valley, or in Texas, I would say, right?
Yeah. It's grown beyond what I thought it would grow to.
So how did that start?
It started when I was a little bitty Ramsey, reading comic books, and I lived on a ranch. My closest friend lived like 2 miles away, and I had nothing to do, so I would explore and read comics, and that was my thing, and draw. And I guess when I realized there was other people that liked this stuff, I became friends with my best friend Jess. Shout out to Jess. We started going to conventions anytime we could. And I think our first convention was a small one in Houston. It was like in a hotel lobby. And we met some of our favorite artists. And then the next one we went to was probably like in 1999. It was Wizard World in Chicago. And it was like way different. This was inside a convention center, and there was a ton of people. They had celebrities there. There was, I think the first Hellboy movie was about to come out. So they were like, giving out promotional material for that. And it was just a really cool thing. And I was like, man, I wish I could do this all the time. And now I do.
That's a very ballsy move, though.
It's insane.
Thinking about doing it and then doing it are two complete different things.
For sure. And I think I was just at a point in my life where I was so in debt. And I used to work in advertising agencies, here in the Valley and stuff. And at some point I said, you know what, I'm gonna strike out on my own. And I was trying to do what people are doing now back then when there wasn't, I guess social media wasn't where it was, and I was trying to push content creation and trying to do all this kind of stuff. And I was having a hard time. Right. And, anyway, that with student loans and all kinds of stuff, I was just so deeply in debt, and I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose. I can risk everything. When you're so low, it doesn't matter, dude. Like so I'm more in debt, big deal. You know? And so I took a risk, and luckily it paid off. So.
That's awesome, man. I find it interesting because I'm not from that world, so I kind of distance myself. But the people there are fanatics, dude.
Yeah,
it's insane.
And who would have thought there was other people like me here? So it's pretty awesome. Yeah,
and people are genuinely having fun there. So you literally brought down something that gives people this joy, man.
Well, that's thank you. I appreciate.
So that. I cannot talk about South Texas Comic-Con without marketing and advertising.
All right.
This is literally what I'm super interested in. And I always try to touch on this in every single podcast. How are you doing the marketing and advertising? Because you corrected me the other day, and I find this interesting because I admit when I'm wrong. So
how did I correct you?
So I was talking about the radio, how they have 87,000 subscribers, right? Listeners, and you're like, but your demographic is on there. They're listening to certain things, and then it gels with that audience. So I'm always like, I'm against billboards, radio, stuff like that.
For sure.
But you're right, because if something works for that niche or something for that industry, it works. So touch on that.
And so the way I see Comic-Con is it's a pie, right? We have basically something for everyone in the family, and you reach the kids a different way than you're gonna reach the grandpas and the dads, And so we kind of take that I guess that mindset and run with it, and we kind of spread out our advertising dollars, in a way that we feel okay. Well, we kind of look at the percentages, like, okay, how many of the people there are young people versus how many of them are older people that probably read the newspaper. How many of them drive on the expressway every day. So billboards can be hit or miss, especially the digital ones that are switching every
3 seconds, 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, billboards, you have literally 2 seconds to make sense of whatever's on there, as you're zooming by. And so you got to be really concise with your message. And then if it's rotating,
they might see it.
They might say it, they might not. So it can be hit or miss, but I think, the people that are driving by at that point will, if I can make it, make the image cool enough or clear enough that it'll help. But definitely I think, and so I fought this battle 10 years ago. You know what I mean? YouTube was new, MySpace, Facebook, they were just coming up. And I was trying to push everybody towards digital. Yeah. And now, here we are 10 years later and you're
still
able to do this.
It. Yeah. Still trying to push it.
Exactly. But the valley is kind of resistant to change at times, and so I just kind of take that mindset for it. And every year we move forward and we're putting more towards digital and less towards other avenues.
The traditional type of stuff.
Yeah. But I think, for our particular market, if it was all young kids, I'd be all over Snapchat all day long, but it's really, it's really like I said, a pie, a whole bunch of, it's like a whole family that's there.
Yeah, well, now it's even skewed even younger because TikTok's around now.
Yeah,
it's insane. I tried already to send an email to TikTok so I can get on the advertising platform.
Oh yeah,
I think I've been denied. They haven't requested. Remember when we were trying to get on Twitch?
Yeah.
Dude, whatever happened with that?
Well,
nothing, right?
We are on Twitch through my comic book store, but not in the advertising sense, just in the streaming side because of the
I would love to put some ad dollars in there.
and so this year, I mean, it's coming up here in a couple months and we'll be working on it and let's push for it. Let's see what else we can, what other areas we worked on, what was it, Snapchat.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that me and Ramsey work together at South Texas Comic Con. So we do a lot of the advertising and marketing together. Yeah. And they have a freaking phenomenal, creative team. Your creative team is phenomenal, dude.
Thank you.
So it makes it very easy for my ads to get consumed because pretty stuff gets consumed a lot faster. Sure. But I think that's one of the things that people don't understand is that your creative is one thing and then the advertising is the other. Yeah. If they gel really good together and you have a really good message, then it just goes. I think with Snapchat, prices already gone up, dude.
Did they? Oh, man, they're on to us.
So expect a good 30% increase already.
Man, hey, well, as long as it's working, I don't mind paying for it.
It's cool because I love TikTok advertising on it because they ripped off Facebook's ad platform and literally just put it in there. So the impressions are super cheap. We're leading the web to the website.
Yeah. All this stuff did really well on there too.
It did.
So we had a ton of impressions on there and and let's see what's new. I mean, if we can get into TikTok, it's all the rage. I'm on TikTok. I've only uploaded like 3 videos of my birds.
I see Frank's on there too. Man.
Frank's on there. My band is on there. We're always pranking our guitarist and those videos and get like thousands and thousands of views.
It's hilarious, dude. So, y'all are super creative, and I love to see that because not too many people here in the Valley will take that time to do it, especially in a band.
Yeah.
So I think
all we have is time in that band. I think the approach we're taking as far as the band is concerned. And by the way, we're called 40 Caliber Kiss, so you can check us out on Spotify and all the streaming channels. Yes. We're taking, in previous bands that I was in, it was just like, oh, let's play as much as we can everywhere, anytime, 10 times in the same week, in the same city. And we've kind of taken a step back and we're like, you know what, let's do something different. Let's create content. Let's connect with, audiences, not just here on stage, but everywhere with these platforms, that are available to us now. And so yeah, the time that we're not spending playing a million shows, it's not like in the old days where, to make it, you had to go out on tour and be a road dog and just tour till you hit big, Now the audience is literally, in your hand on your phone. And so instead of playing so many shows, we're kind of scaling that back. Say, hey, you know what? We're only going to play maybe 3 times, 4 times in the Valley a year, 3 or 4 times in San Antonio, and so on and so forth, and use the rest of the time to create content, and music, of course, But it's a lot of fun. We try to have fun with it.
And I think that's better because you're not burning yourselves out and not burning out your audience, but you're creating content that people can consume. Yeah, and it's funny. And it shows your attitude.
If we can make you laugh, there's more of a chance that you're going to check out our music, rather than just like, hey, I heard of this band, but it's hard. It's really hard to get people to listen to your music. Yeah. I think back in the day, if a band was on a label, you trusted it more, and you're like, oh, they have to be good, But now with the internet and labels, being where they are and streaming music and everything that happened after Napster, it's different now, and especially with social media now, you can reach a huge audience, but that means all the bands are doing it, good or bad. So it's really hard for to get people to take the time to listen to your music. Yeah. And so we try to,
And that's one of the things I love about Facebook and YouTube and Instagram is that you can advertise. Like for my podcast, I'm pushing out advertisements through the whole Rio Grande Valley because I want to be the person that people come to when they want a business podcast. Like when these big companies want to try podcast, I want them to only think of me when it comes to that. So I don't mind investing dollars into my brand. Same thing as you, right?
For sure.
So I think a lot of people have a problem with that because it's not physical. Yeah. I think it pays off later, but you have to be willing to put in the work.
It's scary. Yeah. It's always a scary step. Right now, so I have my podcast area that we do our Comic-Con kind of podcast stuff at my office. And we're renting another office next door, painted green, and have it as a green screen, one to use for us, but for anybody that might want to have a podcast there, could rent it out to them and stuff, and they can do it there. I don't want to edit their podcast. I don't want to do any of that stuff, right? But we'd have a place there. But mainly it's so we can do stuff with all my projects, with my comic book, with my podcast.
It's multi-purpose.
The band or whatever comes up, and that way we're not always using that one backdrop, that kind of has become like the Comic-Con thing. If I'm using it for everything, and with a green screen, you can just wipe it all out.
You're right, because I think getting all this content and getting all these different ideas and making them work together, it makes sense. Like I only figured out photography and videography good enough so I can sell it. Yeah. Because the advertising is really where it's at. Like you can have beautiful videography, beautiful photography, and very few people are going to see it. Yeah. So sometimes that doesn't even matter. And the production cost of anything has literally gone down. Yeah. So the advertising aspect of it gets it out to a huge audience, and then you can just retarget these people. And I think that's super interesting that not too many people really understand, especially when I talk to business owners and I'm talking about it. I spread the fucking Facebook gospel, dude. Yeah. So I'm talking about it all the time. And I think that's why I started sharing other agencies like content, because I'm only talking about it all the time. They're like, oh, this dude's just talking about Facebook and Instagram and YouTube all the time. But if I share other people that are talking about the same thing, it seems to be better adapted or better adopted by other people.
And it gives you credibility as well. That you're not the only one.
So I had to change my mentality quite a while back. And I was just like, you know what, give value, share other people's stuff. And it's helped me grow as a person, as an advertiser. And I think it's very important that people should do that. Yeah. Like even in bands or in anything, dude, like give value, and then you go in for the ask. I have no problem going in for asks.
For sure. And that was my problem. I was never a salesman. And that was the part that I had to kind of, learn. And I'm still not great at it. But, I give a lot of, primo discounts and, all that kind of stuff when I really shouldn't. But, speaking of your content stuff, like it's come a long way, dude. In the what's it gonna be 3 years that we've been working together now, and I saw some stuff the other day. I'm like, damn, dude, like you're killing.
I'm growing.
It, so
I'm growing. It's only you'll hopefully grow instead of go backwards.
Yeah, for sure. And it's looking great, man. So I'm really proud of you, dude.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying. I think I'm trying to gel all the things that I like together. And it was at one point it was music. I mean, I would play drums. I would sing. But I was like, I don't want the allure of being the front man, because sometimes it's scary and it's dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
So I sat behind the drums, and I was like, it kind of got repetitive over time as we were playing covers, and then we started playing a few originals, but it never went where I wanted it to go. So I was like, I found this advertising, I got good at it, got better, and it's growing and it works.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't get, is like, you can change your lifestyle anytime you want. I think a lot of people are scared, like, no, I got to do this one thing. And it was never like that for you, right? Because you tried a ton of different stuff.
And so, like I said, my parents told me, hey, you can be anything. You can do anything. And I took that seriously. And so now I'm doing anything and everything. And so my degree is in graphic design and advertising. So that was the field I went into. And then I did it a lot for other companies very successfully. I won some awards, and stuff like that.
I still have yet to win a fucking
and it was cool. Like my first year out, I won 2 awards. I'm like, oh man, I'm awesome, and thinking I was great. And all these, other advertising agencies were like at the award ceremony were like, hey, well, you want to come work for us, or hey, come work for us. And I was like, man, but I struck out on my own. And then honestly, if I'm being super honest on this podcast, it gets tiresome trying to help people with your expertise, but they're like, no, I want it this way. And no matter what you tell them, they want it a certain way. And it sometimes it was like, oh man, I don't want to put my name on this. Like really? Like this is what you want? And so I said at some point, I was like, you know what? Instead of giving away my expertise to all these other businesses, and don't get me wrong, I still have certain clients that I still work with and I keep, and that pay on time and actually chase me down to pay me, which is very rare. Usually you got to chase people down to pay you. I keep a few of them, and I still do work here and there. But for the most part, I said, I'm going to just use my expertise to build my brands. Yeah. And that's what I've been doing for several years now.
I think you touched on something very interesting, because I'm going through that exact same thing right now. So we're obviously we have an expertise, right? And then the clients are like, no, I want it this way. I want it this way. I want it this way. They're not from that world. So they don't really get it. Like, especially with websites. I think websites is a very interesting one, because I learned a customer, conversion rate optimization. So we're pushing certain things in the front where they go to first. So you're just making it very easy for them. But I think what a lot of people are in love with is they see one thing and then they say, oh, I want that. And then 2 weeks later, no, I want that. I want that. And in this world, it really doesn't work like that. But I mean, you have to use the data and the metrics to actually do that stuff.
Exactly.
Touch on that, because I think I talk about it all the time. So it's like, this dude's talking about this again.
Exactly.
But it's true.
And so those were a lot of things that I had to try to overcome. And I had some great clients that are like, hey, I absolutely trust you. Do your best work, go, here's some money, and those were the ones that got the best results, and then when you're trying to help a client and you're trying to guide them in the right direction and say, hey, look, like I do have all this experience, 20 years worth of experience doing this stuff professionally. You should probably hear me out, right? And they still want something else, and then they don't get the results. Who are they going to pin it on? They're going, well, your stuff didn't work. Exactly. They're not going to say, oh, well, it was my bad ideas, and I get it. Businesses are, it's a very sensitive thing. I think it's almost like your baby, and you're scared to let it go out into the world or give other people access to it. And I think it's important to say, you're coming from, right?
You're coming from both perspectives, because you are the client and you are also a business owner.
Exactly. So. And sometimes I have this battle with myself, like, oh man, I want to do this, and it's like, okay, and sometimes I'll just throw money at it just so I can do it. Yeah. And I'll be like, yeah, I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I did it just to do it, And so I'll have that same battle with myself. So I understand it. I get that, hey, your business is like your baby. Oh. You want to take care of it. You think you know what's best, But at the same time, if you're thinking of it like a baby, you can't be your baby's teacher through every grade, through every subject. You know what I mean? So sometimes you do have to let go and let the professionals take care of it.
Yeah, I think I burned bridges with one of my good friends. She takes me to MLB Mexico every year.
Oh yeah.
Now she's super cool. One of the best graphic designers that I've ever met, and she designed one of my websites for her clients. Right. So what happened is, I'm not from the website world, so I'm the business guy. I'm the sales guy. So I'm here like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? It's like, no, that's the way it is. Like I see it this way. So same thing, questioning the expertise. But at the same time, I was getting a lot of heat from the clients. Like, can you just put this here? Can you put this here? So I was like, oh, what I do?
Yeah, it's
so
tough.
at the end of the day, I had to like move things around, and it sucked because I hate burning bridges with anybody. It was like,
for sure.
But it's at the same time, it's like, shit, like how am I gonna make these things work? I'm the middleman, right?
And you know, sometimes on that odd occasion, you know, sometimes it's not a bad idea to take on some suggestions. Sometimes you'll find like, wow, that did work. Yeah. I didn't think that was gonna work, you know, but that's a rule. Few and far between for sure. But so that's kind of why I kind of stopped doing advertising for other people, and just said, you know what, I have my own brands. I'm just gonna pour in all my expertise into my own, and bring in people who know more than me, you know, and help me on other aspects as well.
I think that's a very important thing, is because sometimes you're not good at everything, and being able to admit that is a huge thing. Like, I'm a horrible fucking writer. Like, I can't write for shit. My grammar's crap half of the time. So I hired on a content writer, but I still love to write. So like, you'll see some stuff that just doesn't make any sense sometimes. But I have to get it out, dude. Like, I'm a creative person. I have to be creative. I mean, you're the same way.
Exactly.
A lot of your team is the same way too. How do you get creativity? Because you're pumping out a ton of stuff.
Yeah, it's tough. I think a lot of it comes. It's like fuel for a fire, right? In my previous bands, like a lot of the emotional stuff that I was going through or whatever was happening in my, you know, personal life was the fuel for the lyrics and the music and that kind of stuff. For the drawing and art side of things, you know, it's a little harder, man, because, you know, you can see something that'll inspire you, you know, sometimes that'll work, but sometimes there's nothing there, you know. And I think it also might have to do with discipline. Like, you know, artists are very undisciplined, and I learned this. I'm creating a comic book, and I have been for about 1.5 years, right? I'm an artist. I love to draw, but I'm doing 1,000 things. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to hire, there's plenty of talented artists out there. I'm going to hire one to draw it for me. I'm going to write the script, you know, and just get it out already. Because if I wait for me to draw it, it's going to take, you know, another decade before, you know, we see it. So, and so what I found out is that, you know, as I already knew, you know, being an art student and all that stuff, you know, a lot of artists out there are very unreliable, you know, and oh man, I'm just not feeling it, you know, or oh man, the creativity's not there, you know. But I also think it has to do with discipline, and if you can sit down and train your mind to like, hey man, from this time to this time I'm gonna do this, and you know what, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna strike out, you know, some of the times, but eventually if you do it enough, I think, you know, it's a muscle that you can kind of, you know, train to do it all the time. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still trying to figure that out, you know. If not, I'd be drawing my own comic too. But you know, as far as like stuff for logo making, which is still art, I think, but it's not to me like drawing, and it comes back to what I'm saying. I attribute it to discipline. You know what? I have to do this. This was my job. Right. You're going to sit there and you're going to figure it out until you make it work. You know, so it's way easier for me to sit down and create a badass logo than it is for me to sit down and draw something, because like I said, I've exercised that muscle and it's become more of a discipline thing. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because my content writer, I found her on Fiverr. I actually had her write an article from her point of view about being a Fiverr.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was super interesting. I put it up on LinkedIn.
That's cool.
Because it's cool. Like I want her perspective, but she's a new mom. So I didn't know this, but she said that she needed a few days extra. I was like, go for it. So it's 10 articles that I pay for each time that I use her. And this time I bombarded her like I need 2 orders, so it's 20 articles. But she pumped them out fast, dude.
Yeah,
like that's what she does. Like she's obviously exercises her talent, right? So all her content's really good, and it's about super diverse subjects, about dentistry, about attorneys, about social media. So it's pretty cool, and she's from Canada. So
wow, yeah.
I think those are the cool things about finding these talented people that you're giving a chance, and you're trying out these things. And like you said, there's a lot of them that are unreliable, but when you find one, I'm keeping her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You treat them well, and it's the same thing in business with employees. You know, sometimes you hit a home run and you get a good one, and sometimes man, they last 2 weeks, and you're like, okay, that one, it's not gonna work, and and you hold on to the good ones, and you make sure that they're appreciated. And
have you ever dealt with
I gotta show my
Joseph,
best friend.
Joseph's
I love this dog.
Always out on the podcast. So
been on camera before?
Oh, all the time, dude.
Okay,
he comes in and out. Boom. I was gonna talk about millennials. So millennials get shit on a lot, right? Obviously, in your work, you hire people. You employ people. Do you hire millennials?
Yes.
So, what's their work ethic? Because I'm always interested in this. Don't worry, because they're probably not gonna listen to this.
Good. Nah, honestly, it's just as hit or miss as anybody else. Yeah. Gen Xers, millennials. What is the next group below that? I don't know, or above
TikTok.
that.
It's just TikTok.
And it's. I don't see a difference. Like people are like, oh, millennials are ruining the world, but they said that about us, and they said that about the previous generation. All our music is sucked in the eyes of our parents. So but I see I see the same thing. Some are really awesome. Right now, the manager that I have at Kaboom, he's a millennial, and he's rocking it. He's always thinking, what can I do to get more people in here? What can I do to get more business? Yeah. And it's gonna be I feel it's gonna be the same ratio. Yeah.
I agree completely too.
And I think it's just the older generations like to shit on the younger generations.
It's always been like that.
That's just how it is. Yeah, it's never gonna change. But I will say the rap is not what it used to be for sure. So I will I'm already that old where it's like, damn, dude, is that what they're listening to? Man, that's terrible. But anyway, to their defense, y'all are great people. So, and just as good or bad as previous generations as far as I know.
So besides Comic-Con, what's been your biggest risk?
Oh man. Well, I mean, any business you open is a risk. And other than Comic-Con has been obviously the biggest risk. We started originally with South Texas Horror Con in 2012 and 2013, and then expanded. I wanted to start with a Comic-Con. I was just scared to go there without trying something smaller, and kind of glad I did. Sometimes I'm like, man, if I'd have started this a long time ago, it might be even bigger now. Right. But I didn't know how the Valley was going to take this, or is it gonna just be like who are these crazy dudes, like 5 of us, inside a dressed up in a convention center, but other than that, I mean, Kaboom is a big risk as well. Comic books and collectibles is what I do, and it's in a weird spot right now. So back in the day, video games when I was young had just come out, right? But people still read comics. Comics used to sell in the millions of copies easily, sometimes, up to 7.5 million, I think, on X-Men #1 that came out in the 90s. It was huge, and they only cost like $1.50 or something like that. And people would spend their allowance, all their allowance on them. And now with the rise of video games and social media and all the interactivity on the web, comic book sales have dropped. And I think the best selling comic, and it's like very rare that anything reaches these numbers, was like Detective Comics #1000 with Batman, or Action Comics #1000, where they sold 500,000 copies. And that's been the most copies sold in a long time. Yeah. But now comics cost, $3 to $5, sometimes even $10. And so it's not, something that, oh man, it's just $1. It's just, right. I can't even imagine my parents used to pay 10 cents, for comics back in the day. So, it's an expensive hobby. But it is a very select amount of people that actually partake in it. You'll have more people that like the movies and might go buy a figure or might go buy a keychain or a t-shirt or something along those lines. And so you see, which is another problem. One, the market for actual comics is shrinking. The pop culture market is growing for other stuff like figures and statues and all
You're
that
a collector
kind of
of
stuff.
things.
I collect a lot of things. But now Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop, all these other stores are starting to expand into what used to be something you could only get at our types of shops.
Gotcha.
So now, and I'll just use this as an example. A Spider-Man toy, at Walmart will sell for $20 now, and I don't know what Walmart pays, but I'm sure they buy them in bulk for all their stores, so they buy them dirt cheap. They're able to strike these deals and sell them, for the price that we pay for them.
Damn.
So we have to sell them at like $5 more, $25, just to make a little bit of money, which is a terrible margin. If you're in business and you're making 20%, back on your return, that's terrible margins, right? But that's where things are right now. Damn. And then with Amazon and everything, it's easier to just order things at your fingertip. So when I got into it about 10 years ago, I think actually this is our 10-year anniversary. I got to do something for it. I was like, oh man, we probably got 10 years left. Let me give it a try. But yeah, it's a kind of I'm almost like, blockbusters. You don't see a lot of blockbusters anymore.
That's true.
The only thing that we do have in our favor is that there's still hardcore collectors that like to collect them for, and there's still money to be made if you're, speculating on what comics are coming out and which ones are going to be worth money.
Right.
And so we do have those people. We do have the hobbyists who like the movies and we want like some kind of, thing for their desk and stuff like that. But for the most part, the future is pretty scary because, like I said, Walmart's moving all up in that stuff, and even Best Buy, is starting to open up a collectible section and stuff. So that one's probably pretty scary, but not as scary as Comic-Con was.
I wonder if Best Buy is just going to shut it down if it doesn't work. Like, remember they had all the music gear at one point? That stuff didn't work.
And that didn't work. GameStop is losing money left and right. People are now downloading the games instead of going and buying them. And it's a lot easier because you can pre-download the game the week before it comes out. And then that day, boom, it's ready to go.
That's awesome.
And so it's
modern convenience.
Yeah, you don't have to go anywhere. At midnight, boom, there it is. You can play. And so that's kind of been a thorn in their side. So they're trying to find their avenues, and now they found collectibles. They're like, hey, let's try that out. And they they have a thing. Hey, man, if it doesn't sell like in a month, clearance it, get it out of here. And they're just kind of like burning through it. So, and whereas we, we're a smaller store, we can't really compete with
burn through all that stuff. Esports is interesting to me. You went to the esports stadium, didn't you?
I did. The esports arena in
How was that? Because it's coming. It's a huge thing already.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just going to get bigger.
And basically they repurposed part of the Arlington Convention Center as an esports arena, and they put in some really cool, like a really awesome stage with giant LED screens, crazy stage that lights up. All modern, state of the art connections. Like any room you're in, they have like, and this was the inspiration for the podcast room that I'm building over there. They have all these rooms where I guess the kind of the esports casters go in. There's a green screen behind them. The TVs are already set up. They can see live exactly what's happening. There's also a control room where the people are like switching between this camera and that camera, and it's just so amazing.
That's crazy, dude.
So awesome to see that, finally happening as a kid, man. I can't imagine being a kid now and growing up with that as the norm because, back in the day we had that movie, The Wizard. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
And they had this huge, Nintendo arena with Super Mario's 3. You're like, wow, well, now it's like, it's a reality.
It's real. And this is not like it's not like a small thing. Like kids are actually making money off this stuff, right?
Yeah, they're getting rich. And they had a whole room devoted for these winners to go in and process how much money they just won.
Damn.
And so they had a like really cool little environment, and the guy that was giving us a tour, it was like, yeah, this is the room where they go in and they like process like, wow, I just won $1 million. This is insane, And but yeah, there's millionaire gamers out there, and
That's
when
insane,
I was a kid,
man.
I couldn't even imagine that, dude.
Damn, yeah, because I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and he just purchased one of the franchises of esports.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I found that interesting too. He's coming at it from a different angle because it's gonna be like NFL.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be one thing that it's weird because you're watching somebody play the game, which is a huge phenomenon even on YouTube.
Yeah. I remember, having to watch my sisters play, and I was like, I just want it to be my turn because I want to play. I don't want to watch you play.
Exactly.
But now that's the thing.
Yeah, it's a normal thing. I remember my daughter used to see kids playing games all the time. I was like, why don't you just play it?
Yeah. My kids would watch Minecraft videos, and it's like, why are you watching it? Go play it. No, Dad, it's good. It's watch. I'm like, no, that's boring. But hey, it's not for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's insane that people can get rich off of it. And there's literally like they're the new rock stars.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like even the YouTube stars, like people get all crazy about meeting these, like Logan Paul and all those stuff. It's very interesting. And I think we had this conversation about this last time about bringing YouTubers to Comic-Con.
Yeah, and so we've been working on that. It's been it's easier. It's weird, and so it is a Comic-Con, and I have a background in comics. I absolutely live, breathe comics, but we have a hard time getting comic book artists, and we have a hard time getting YouTubers. But celebrities, no problem. Yeah, anymore, now that we've had a few and people like have had good experiences here with us, not a problem. But comic book artists, it's hard, I guess, because they got deadlines. They can only do maybe one show a month.
Gotcha.
Or, if celebrities aren't working, they can do like every weekend,
Interesting.
YouTubers, we brought in a few. But yeah, we hit a wall there, and so we're still trying to break down that wall.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing because you go through agents and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
and finding these agents, and it used to be where YouTubers didn't have agents, and now they have agents.
That's crazy, man.
And now they're sought after, and now we're competing with every other Comic-Con that's happening, around the world.
Yeah.
And there's some on our dates in Calgary and other parts of the US as well. And I think in Wales, maybe.
I think it's interesting to say that you're not only getting people from the Rio Grande Valley. I think you got people from Japan, right?
Yeah. People fly in from all over the US, Honolulu, Japan. Like they come from everywhere to meet the celebrities or to be part of this show, which is insane, to me.
Yeah, when I was looking at the data and analytics, I was like, what?
The little dots all over. There, you can see all the little dots from where people are coming from all over the United States that are buying tickets. And I was
crazy.
like, wow, what's this way over here? But yeah, it's a really, really crazy thing. And then, like I said, I never, I expected just people from the Valley. Like that was the goal, to bring some of that, when me and my friend Jess would go out there and experience that, bring some of that here.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that people know where McAllen is in Japan, that they fly over here to meet some celebrities. So.
I think influencer marketing is one of the most underrated things, and this is what I wanted. I think we talked about it last year, because influencers that have these huge followings, right? They don't know how to price themselves, and I kind of love this because either they price themselves way too high or really low for their reach that they can give you. And I think it's a really cool thing. I want to definitely explore this year with a few people that I met.
Yeah, for sure.
And I find it very interesting because I think some of your people that are actually dressing up and the cosplay have tons of followers, dude. And I started following. I was like, damn, dude. Yeah. They're huge influencers, and it's funny because a lot of them love controversy.
And it's crazy, that someone from here can have over 100,000, 200,000 followers. So that's awesome, man. I wish I had, that kind of reason. But again, not as handsome as I wish.
You gotta be a girl, man. I tell you, dude.
I gotta be a girl and half naked.
I had Lauren Corzine on the podcast, and I was telling her, like, dude, you're a girl. You're a pretty girl. You're blonde. You have blue eyes. Like, it's easy for you to grow.
Great singer, too. Yeah.
It's like easy for you to grow. Like me, it takes forever, man.
Dudes, nobody wants to look at us, man.
But I think that's the important part is like the influencer marketing is a very underrated tool that a lot of people don't use. And I think that using this, especially here in the Rio Grande Valley, because I always think that a lot of people in the Rio Grande Valley are antiquated in their thoughts, right?
Yeah, and it's true.
Yeah.
Like it was like up to maybe 3 years ago where CDs were still selling in the Valley. And so a lot of music companies would target the Valley with CDs because we're the only place that still bought them. You know, everybody else had moved on already, you know. So for sure, yeah, we're antiquated in our ways. Which is
what I kind of love, because this whole digital frontier, it kind of is like, it's everywhere. Because I went to San Antonio, I went to Vegas, LA, and a lot of the ads I was seeing, there weren't very many, or they weren't very good. So it's not only technically the Rio Grande Valley that's behind on digital, it's everywhere, because I don't think you can find somebody. I think because a lot of people have the antiquated mindset, like you got to pay 10 grand for a commercial, when it's not like that anymore. Like you can create content at scale for 10 grand. Like it's crazy, dude. And I think that's the process that we're in now, is that you can find these really good artists and really good videographers, photographers at a lower cost, and they're willing to do the work.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in music. You know, it used to be where, you know, we couldn't afford this stuff. You know what I mean? And so we'd have to go to a huge studio, and if we weren't backed by a label, we couldn't make music. You know, and now you can open up your laptop, plug it in, and you're ready to go.
Never in the history of man have we been able to do this, dude. I think it's awesome. Like,
it's insane. Imagine the next 100 years. I wish I could live to see them, you know.
Podcast be like, what's a podcast? This stuff's on YouTube, Facebook.
You're gonna have like contact lenses. I know, beam stuff directly in their head or something.
Pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about the future, because Elon Musk is here now, dude. I think it's. Have you been out to see any launches?
No, I wish. I'm a huge space buff.
I thought you would have been like the first ones, dude.
I know. I just like I said, like I told you earlier, man, I'm trying to schedule my day to make sure I have time to devote to every project that I have going, and it's hard. So
it's difficult taking a lot on your plate. This is one of the testaments. I got CBD bath bombs,
fresh boxes
of CBD bath bombs.
Yeah, that's a lot of them,
and they've been there for forever. But I think that's one of the interesting things. Like, I'm willing, and I see this in you, is you're willing to take risks. You're willing to do something, even if you lose money, just to test it out and see if it works. And I think that's one of the skill sets that a lot of people need to understand, because a lot of people are like, well, should I do this? Should I not? And they just never do anything. They're sitting on their couch hoping that something's going to come, and it never happens.
Scared money don't make money. You know?
So touch on that, because I think the mindset of somebody that is willing to take a risk versus somebody that's just hoping something's going to happen doesn't work.
You know, I mean, okay, so it works both ways. If everybody had the balls, can I say balls on the podcast?
It's unfiltered. I'll put that.
If everybody had the balls to go out and create their own business, there would be no workforce. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, there's some that are like, you know, screw it, I'm gonna give it a try, and they bomb, and they're like, okay, that didn't work, and they give up. And there's looking back at the last 15 years of my life, there was a lot of points where I was like, I need to give it up, you know, but I didn't, and I stuck with it, and I made it through, and you know, perseverance, you know, you just got to keep going at it. But at the same time, it's a scary world, you know. You're fending for, you know, I think I was talking about this with my girlfriend last night, Marla, you know, how it's a scary thing, you know, and there's some people that are like, hey, you know, it's safer to have a salary and have insurance, you know, whereas I went 15 years with no insurance, you know, and if I'd have died or something, hey, you know, it would have been too bad, you know. And but you know, if you risk something, it's not always gonna be, there's not always gonna be a reward right there,
right?
You know,
you're willing to put in the time,
you know, it might be 15 years down the road, you know, and you have to weigh it. Does your life allow you to be able to live a poorer lifestyle while you're pumping all your money into this business that sometimes you're the only one who believes in? You know, and if it doesn't, you know, and hey, you got kids to raise, you got, you know, mouths to feed. I get it. Like, not everybody can do it. But if you're out there doing it, you know, and you stick with it, more often than not, you're going to come out the other end, you know. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving bad advice.
No,
everyone's gonna quit their jobs.
You're absolutely right, because I mean, even at one point, you have to figure out, like, well, am I good enough to be able to work in this market? And at some point, like 2, 3, 4 years, like, shit, I'm not getting anywhere. We should probably throw in the towel.
And so I'm not the best at everything I do. You know, I just don't give up, and I try to learn, and I, you know, push forward and learn from my mistakes and get up and dust myself off and do it again.
Yeah.
So it's not always about being the best.
Right.
You know, it's about how many hits you can take, you know, and still keep going.
Right.
So,
and nobody wrote the book on how to freaking start a business and keep it going.
I'm sure there's cases where, you know, people have immediate success. That wasn't me. You know, again, artist mentality. I was an artist, you know, and I had to kind of take my point of view and flip it and say, okay, I know how to create art. Now, how do I create money? Right. You know, and it took a while to kind of adapt to that.
Well, what was it that made that switch?
You know, it was gradual, and it came from a need to do it. You know, like I said, I was super in debt. Yeah. You know, $100,000 more or more, dude, in debt. You know, and I needed to figure out a way to get out of it, and there's nothing like a fire under your ass to make you jump out of that frying pan, you know?
True, man.
So that's kind of, you know, what happened.
Yeah. Do you think, knowing what you know now, do you think that you need school to be successful?
No.
Why?
Nope. So I did the college thing. At the time, it did open doors for that time. You know, I graduated in 1999 from UTPA here in Edinburgh, now UTRGV. And all I had to say was, oh, I have a degree. Oh, you do? Boom. They would throw me ahead. Sometimes they wouldn't even check if I had a degree or not. Or maybe they did, and I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, you know, none of the places I worked for checked to see if I really did have a degree. I could just lied, right?
Yeah. You're such a good graphic designer. You can create your own.
Yeah, and but the thing is, in all honesty, the program that I was in at the time was way behind. You know, even TSTC at the time had 3D animation already being taught, websites being taught. My program didn't teach me any of that. I had to learn that on the side, you know? So did it really prepare me? You know, I like, okay, so I worked for HEB for like 8 years. And then I got my degree and I was like, man, I'm going to go work for the main place in San Antonio in the design department. And I took my portfolio and they're like, this isn't what we really want to see. We want to see more stuff like this, you know? And I was like, okay, well, nobody, you know, told me that. I wish they would have prepared me more. So did school really prepare me? No. But having a degree did open doors. And that was back then. So then, you know, doing all this stuff for as long as I did, I took on an apprentice, right? His name is Frank. Hello, Frank. and so he came in and he just absorbed everything. You know, it was like, you know, I was the Jedi, he was the Padawan and stuff. And now he's teaching me things, you know.
He's like, hey, so damn busy, man.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, have you played around with this new thing? I was like, no, dude, I haven't had a chance. He's like, well, check it out, you know. And now he's so advanced. He knows, you know, pretty much whatever I know. Not everything. I don't teach everybody everything. You know, I got some, you know, some
I got some good stuff in there,
you know. But you know, like I basically taught him almost everything I know as far as design is concerned, and then he took it to the next level. And I can honestly say he's probably better than me. Man, that hurts to say.
He's gonna love
Frank. That, dude. And so, you know, and so, but he's in it. Like I said, like I'm already at the point where I'm like, I just do stuff for me. Yeah. You know, he still does stuff for all these clients, so he still gets to explore. He's where I was, you know, 10 years ago. And but he didn't need to get in debt like I did, you know, owing 45 grand in student loans. Damn. You know, to be able to learn all this stuff. He just had to find the right person who was willing to teach him, and he was willing to learn, and he absorbed it all, and now he's an expert at what he does. So
yeah, I think that's important, that you're finding your apprentice, you're finding your mentor to teach you this stuff, but you also can go to YouTube University and just learn everything, man.
I mean, another passion of mine is I fix old arcade machines. And so I learned through the school of YouTube how to fix arcade machines, you know, and I can't do everything, but I can do like 85, 90% of what needs to be done. And then I get into that area where it's like, okay, I might shock myself and die. I better not mess with that. But I mean, you know, and it hurts because I don't want to say, I don't want my kids to see this and be like, oh, well, my dad said I don't have to go to school. Yeah. You know, I'm still holding on to that thing that I want them, you know, and I force them to go to college, you know, and in hopes that, you know, hey, you know, there's still something to that.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, you know, if you're crafty enough, if you can hook up with the right person, you can learn. If you're dedicated enough to find it, you know, it's all out there. The internet is huge. It's a like the Smithsonian on steroids. You know, you can find anything. You may have to filter through some crap to get there, but you can learn anything, you know, online and be just as good as somebody who's now 50K in debt, you know, and has a degree.
I think Yao Sam said it good. Who's a Gen Zer on my podcast, and I think he said it best that college. You don't necessarily need college, but the relationships and everything that opened up in college really helped him grow as a extroverted person, to be able to talk and be in these groups and stuff like that.
That's true too. I mean, they make you stand up in front of the class and give presentations, and that was really hard for me. But doing it all those years, I got better and better at it. And now people are doing, you know, podcasts and stuff. That's probably important for that too, and be able to do public speaking and stuff. So I'm not saying it's not you know, useful. It definitely is useful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't go to school, you're not going to be successful. That's not the case at all anymore.
Do you think that people have to leave the valley to become successful?
No, I always thought that in the past, and I always thought my life was gonna, you know, take me to California, and that's where everything was happening, or New York, you know, one of those big cities. You know, everything I wanted to do, you know, was being done over there, and then none of that. I'm from Sullivan City, you know, we have cactuses and cows and you know, and acres of land, you know, but if I wanted to be in a movie, or if I wanted to make music, like how would I even go about doing that back then? Now everything is connected. And so you can be at your house doing a podcast and people in, you know, China can watch it, you know? So no, you do not have to leave the valley, you know, to be successful. At least in most cases.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think since the internet's literally shrunk the world, and the cost of living here is so damn good.
I know it's cheap compared to other parts of the world. You know. There's people in California that earn more than people here that have houses. You know, that are living on the streets over there because they can't afford it.
It's crazy. A lot of people from California are moving to Texas now.
Exactly.
Colorado and all that stuff. It's pretty crazy where we're at.
And so no, and like take Comic-Con as an example. Or there's something you want to do, figure out how to do it here. I think it was Kevin Smith. Of course, he was in New Jersey, and that's close to New York. But he was just like, I just wanted to do it here, you know, because I couldn't do it over there. Right. And then all of a sudden, he was able to, you know, make it as a director.
Yeah, so, I think it's that initial thing that you go, boom, let's do it, let's try it. And if it works, it works.
And it's gonna take work. Not everything's gonna work, but you don't know until you try.
Yeah. So before we finish all the podcast, who do you get, I guess, a girl fan about when they come to Comic-Con? Or I guess, who's your favorite actor that you've brought?
So, I mean, I don't get starstruck with the actors. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't get starstruck with the actors. It's the weirdest thing for me that I'll meet a comic artist and get all shaky. It's like, God, you know, that's Todd McFarlane there, you know, creator of Spawn, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna meet him, you know. Not William Shatner. I'm having a conversation with William Shatner, like, you know, he's my friend or whatever, you know. I'm not starstruck with celebrities. It's people that, you know, it's mostly creators. I think people that either created comics or did something like that on their own, who I girl out for.
Yeah, I think the same with me, like with entrepreneurs. Like if I were to ever meet Elon Musk, I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly, you know. And so yeah, for as far as celebrities, I mean, don't get me wrong, like they're, you know, I've met a lot of awesome ones, and but yeah, I don't get starstruck, you know. Yeah. With them, I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, Stone Cold. I met Stone Cold, and it was like, hey, it's Stone Cold, you know. And that's because I love wrestling, but it's more like, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just that big a comic geek that the comic artists are the ones that I'm like, oh my god, you know, like, you know, freaking out over. So
that's awesome, man. So let's plug Comic-Con, dude, because it's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, it's coming up April 24th through the 26th at the McAllen Convention Center. 3 days of pop culture and comics and awesomeness and costumes and collectibles and all kinds of things to do, video game tournaments. You can check it out at southtexascomiccon.com. And then we have Anime Fiesta coming up in October, which is a similar thing, but
it was a great success this past year.
It was insane.
Were you expecting that?
No, not at all. I was expecting 1,000 people. You know, we got 5,000. I was like, wow, awesome, dude, So that one's coming up again in October. We have a Gamers Expo that we're trying to find some dates for in between there. There's conventions going on every weekend, everywhere in the world. And we want to make sure, like, hey, we're not on a weekend that there's one somewhere in Texas.
Right,
that would be bad. So we're trying to find one for that one. That one's all about gaming and hardcore tournaments and, you know, people winning like $2,000 at, you know, Call of Duty or something. Nice. And then I have Kaboom Comics, which is comics and collectibles on 10th Street in McAllen and on Texas in Weslaco. We have Anime Boom on Pecan, where our old Kaboom was, which is all busy, man. Anime stuff. Then I have a comic book coming out called My Ordinary World. It should be out by April. We're going to do a Kickstarter here pretty soon for it. And I think you can check that out at myordinaryworld.net, maybe, I think. And then I have a couple podcasts that I'm working on. One's called What's in the Box, and it's me unboxing cool pop culture stuff. And, you know, at Kaboom every week we're getting new stuff, and, you know, that's just coming out. We're going to unbox and let people know what's happening, you know, what's happening in the pop culture world. And the other one I'm working on is called Legends of Pop Culture. And that one is more interviewing, like, basically the legends of pop culture, the people that made you know, pop culture what it was. So.
And then the band.
Oh yeah, and then I have a band called 40 Caliber Kiss that we're all over the place. Check us out. We're all right.
All right. So have you already announced the people that are coming to Comic-Con?
We've announced a few. We try to get multiple people, all their contracts in, and then we release them in rounds, like round 1, round 2. Right. I think we just released round 2. Round 3 should be out, I think, maybe next week. And but we try to announce them in groups, so we have to wait for all the contracts to come in, then we announce them, and then we wait for more, and then we announce them. So there'll be more announcements coming out pretty soon.
Sweet. So check that out: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You're literally on everything,
TikTok. You know, TikTok, we're all over the place.
Get on there, check it out. SouthTexasComicCon.com. SouthTexasComicCon.com. That sounds weird.
It's a tongue twister a bit.
All right, Ramsey. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, man.
Of course, having me, not us. Well. There's multiple me in there.
There's multiple me.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 of me in my head. So
all right,
thanks
cool,
for having us.